I want to welcome to the program Brian Jodis. He is the National Press Secretary at the American Federation for Children. Brian, how are you, sir?
Hey, doing great. Good to be with you.
So first off, tell folks who aren't aware of what the American Federation for Children is.
Yeah, nation's leading school choice advocacy organization really exists to help ensure that families across the country have the opportunity to find the school that best meets their kids' needs. And we do that by working on good public policy, by ensuring that we've got legislative leaders and state leaders on board that can ensure that public policy gets passed, and really driving awareness across the country, this idea of school choice, right? Find that school that's the best fit for your kids, and let's help you get there.
So let me channel my inner teacher union representative. Why do you want to kill public schools and hurt children?
Yeah, it's a little tongue-in-cheek, right, with the question.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's the fight that we've been in for a long time. And, I haven't had the honor to have to sort of fight against it here in the great state of North Carolina when I served at Parents for Educational Freedom in North Carolina before joining the team at AFC. And look, we've seen it time and time again, this idea that by creating more choice in the marketplace, by giving families more additional options, all of a sudden it's going to be some death knell to public schools. Nobody wants that. Nobody's advocating for that. You're talking about just providing more choices and more options. And we've seen in state after state where those choices and options have grown. We've seen academic outcomes increase. We've seen competitive analysis that shows that kids are doing better. In fact, we just had new research analysis out last week that looked at the 15 years of the Florida school choice program, and it's helped kids across the board, right? Public and private schools. And so we're hopeful that can be the case here in North Carolina as well, too.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how, you step back and look how far North Carolina came in just a short period of time as well. And Florida really was the trailblazer. Because, I remember, one of the first interviews I did at a tiny little radio station was with South Carolina homeschool mom. And, just the whole idea was so foreign at the time. And this would have been 98. And now, fast forward, 25 years, which admittedly is, 2 cycles of kids going through K-12. But the model now is completely different. And I think the biggest challenge is there are so many parents that I encounter that are completely unaware of the opportunity scholarships available in North Carolina. That seems to me to be the biggest obstacle.
Yeah, and we continue to see just such incredible growth across the country. I mean, you're talking about at this point now, in the time frame that you mentioned, 32 states plus the District of Columbia that have a school choice program. Nearly 20 of those have universal sort of components to it. North Carolina, in fact, actually really leading the way now at this point. And you can look to states like Florida where they've had a program for 15 years and 500,000 kids on it. But you also don't have to go to look too far back in the Wayback Machine here to North Carolina, where our Opportunity Scholarship Program was only serving 15, 20,000 kids. Today, happy to report over 100,000 students have access to it. But it's not enough. We've got to interject more of this, into the school choice landscape. That's why you saw President Trump and, Secretary Linda McMahon talk about this recently. Congress made a huge priority in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act to get this education freedom tax credit in there, just as one more piece to empower families with more school choice. But North Carolina specifically has come a long way in a short period of time. 32,000 students on the program, but just a few years ago, now over 100,000. So we owe a debt of gratitude to the state legislature for seeing that and ensuring that we got that expansion done here as well.
Right. So you mentioned Secretary of Education McMahon. She was in High Point, I believe it was, yesterday, and she was touting the Education Freedom Tax Credit, which you also referenced there as part of the Educational Choice for Children Act that was passed in North Carolina. So tell people, what is this program, this Education Freedom Tax Credit? What does it do?
Yeah, it really is a game changer for education across the country. And we talk a lot about, every state will have school choice soon. And there are states that have passed school choice programs. North Carolina continues to lead the way there. But then there are those states that won't even pass the most modest of school choice programs. Think about a New York or a California. And what this does is it amends the tax code. So it's a tax provision, amends the tax code. And it allows donors in states to donate to scholarship granting organizations. States must opt into this program. That's sort of the catch here. So donors can donate to these scholarship granting organizations. They can get a dollar for dollar up to $1,700 tax credit. So great for taxpayers. And then those SGOs can then go give out scholarships in states that are participating to really be able to use for a lot of different things. And so, yes, families can use it towards private school tuition, but it also clearly states in the law that it can be used for tutoring or other educational services. So it really is a great opportunity to unlock philanthropic support. That's the amazing part, right? So it doesn't take a dollar from a state to participate, right? So it won't have an impact on any state budgets. Your state could participate. Your taxpayers can get the credit, which is great. And then students can also benefit as well. So it really is a game changer in this sense. But again, the key component here is states have to opt in to participate. That doesn't block donors from donating to other states, but it does require states to opt in so that kids can benefit in those states.
Okay, so right now, the North Carolina legislature has passed the Educational Choice for Children Act. This is House Bill 87. Josh Stein has vetoed it. The governor has vetoed this. And so what that means right now is that if I wanted to make a contribution to a scholarship fund, I could do so, but the money would not be able to be granted to anybody in North Carolina. Is that right?
No, you're reading it right. So, if a state does not opt in, and kudos to Senator Berger and Speaker Hall for taking action to proactively opt North Carolina in, and we'll see the way in which this plays out. And I could even comment more about some of the rhetoric and the governor's comments about it, which, really kind of struck me. But as you're saying, if at the end of the day, and I believe North Carolina will get there, very optimistic, but if at the end of the day, our state was not to participate, yes, as a taxpayer, you can bet I'm going to go find an SGO in another state to support because I want that $1,700 tax credit and I want to support students, right? I mean, that's the beauty of this. But if that's the case, then, you can look at the map on federalscholarships.com, and I can find states that border North Carolina really closely, to the north, to the south, to the west, where you can make contributions to SGOs. And do you really want to send those dollars into other states? I think you'd want to keep that here at home.
Right. So Josh Stein vetoed this, and in the news release that he sent out back in August, he said the government should focus instead on funding public schools. Quote, school choice is good for students and parents, and I have long supported magnet and accountable charter schools because public schools open doors of opportunity for kids in every county of the state. So he supports school choice, but only if it is government run, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's a very narrow view, right? It's a very narrow view in the way in which education, which should be accountable to families and parents and ultimately to the end user, which is the student. What we've got to do is sort of break these barriers down. There's other language in there, too, talking about hollowing out public schools or cutting public education funding, billions in tax giveaways to the wealthy parents. I mean, just none of that's really necessary here. What you've also seen is North Carolina specifically investing in traditional public education to the tune of $15 billion a year in state and local funding. So nothing being hollowed out there, while at the same time investing in things like the Opportunity Scholarship Program, $650 million a year, which kind of pales in comparison to what you spend at the state level. So there is a way to do both of these things. We're actually showing here in North Carolina you can do both of these things without having to sort of put these kind of red lines on this, these sort of lines in the sand. And so the governor's got the opportunity here, I think, to do something pretty bold, which would be to support a program like this, which again takes taxpayer dollars to then help kids across makes and models. Yes, private school tuition assistance for those in need that want to go get it. Yes, tutoring assistance for kids in public schools. Yes, and right, the ability to do all of those things is what the benefit is here, but seems to take a bit of a narrow view of it here. Yeah,
he also said that he will opt in once the federal government issues sound guidance. What does that mean?
Well, I think he's just looking for a way to probably delay here a little bit. We're in the process of waiting for the Treasury Department to release what will be the official rules for the program. We're very optimistic that those rules will show the pathway to where kids across makes and models will be able to benefit from this. But, to be able to say so we can invest in the public school students most in need, again, yes, there is a pathway to be able to use the Education Freedom Tax Credit to be able to do that. But what we don't want to see is anyone attempting to block out the ability for families who seek out private education for their students to be able to use the scholarship as well.
Right. This is basically a charitable contribution, right? That's essentially what it's treating. Like if I have up to $1,700 that I want to donate to one of these scholarship granting organizations or SGOs, then I get a tax credit for that at the federal level. There's no impact at all on state level funding.
100% correct. while at the same time getting a dollar for dollar tax credit. You're getting $1,700 right off the top of your federal tax bill. I mean, that's why this is such a no-brainer. Philanthropic support, right? Nobody's forced to have to do this, but you can get that dollar for dollar credit right off your federal tax bill starting in 2027, while at the same time supporting students across the state. And what you could do as a taxpayer is you could say, fine, then let me go look at the list of SGOs that have been approved in North Carolina, and let me go find one that matches my values or what I'd want to support. And you could be able to go do that. So if you wanted to say, let me go find an SGO that's going to serve kids with some tutoring assistance, great, go find it and go give to it. But if you want to say, let me go find one that's going to help small independent Christian schools across eastern North Carolina, you could do that.
There's the problem.
Something you could do.
That's the problem right there. I think you just stumbled on the problem there, Brian. That they don't like the idea that parents would send their kids to some sort of a Christian oriented school. I think that might be the issue. Just spitballing.
Again, the beauty of school choice is finding ways in which, right, to empower those families. Go find the environment that's the best fit for you. Let sort of this Washington middleman get out of the way. I mean, we've seen too much, right? Even in the statement, Congress and the administration. Why don't we get Washington, D.C. out of the way a little bit? It's why I think President Trump was so focused on this idea of reining in, closing the Department of Education. It's why he sent Linda McMahon with sort of this mission to put herself out of a job. We got to get Washington, D.C. out of the way here. We got to get dollars as close to kids locally as possible, right in their backpacks, take them to school that's going to best meet their needs.
All right, that's Brian Jodas, National Press Secretary at the American Federation for Children. Their website is AFC Press, or is that your Twitter handle?
Yeah, so you can go to federationforchildren.org, or you can, if you want to find me on X, I'm at AFC Press, and always open to have a dialogue there as well.
All right, Brian, thanks so much for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Anytime.